Autumn is approaching, and that can only mean one thing. It's football season, and it's time to play fantasy football.
For the kids, for the kids.
Oh, Elmo, yours gonna pass us to a Marley.
When until the Reaper takes my life.
Lucky for you, you are right where you need to be. So sit back, relax, and turn up the volume on your streaming device. Johnny Ballgame, Sir Poops-a-Lot, and the Fantasy Reaper are about to deliver humor and fantasy gold at the same time. Crush your opponent with a smile. It's Fantasy Sports Island.
Welcome to Fantasy Sports Island. How's everyone doing tonight? It's
Fantastic.
It's here with his buddies on the island. The one, the only, Johnny Ballgame.
Man, I'm sporting my Hawaiian gear today. I felt so Fantasy Island-y. Let's do this.
Nice.
Playing the role, Johnny Ballgame, playing the role.
This isn't even a role, buddy. This is my life. You know what I'm saying? This is just how JP rolls.
That's good news, John. Glad to have you on the show tonight. Also glad to have Tony Sir Poops-a-Lot. Welcome to the show.
Got my Eddie Van Halen coffee mug, baby.
Well played, sir.
Love
He's a legend. He's a legend.
We got a show for you tonight, folks. I'm telling you right now, we're going to break down the NFC East division for fantasy purposes. We're going to go step by step, tell you all the guys we like on each team. That ought to be fun. We're going to do a little draft 101 tonight. We're going to talk about strategies that you should take with you to the draft. And if you're a beginner just starting in fantasy football, you're going to want to catch this segment. Johnny Ballgame, you're going to bring some nuggets tonight in Draft 101, right?
Bringing it.
And Johnny Ballgame wins a lot, folks. So you're going to want to listen to what he has to say.
I don't want to brag, boys and girls. I do.
And Tony, you've been doing this 25 years like me. And we've won a few in our day as well. You're probably going to want to listen to what we have to say as well.
Absolutely.
I got a few pointers if you want to get fifth place.
He's solid middle ground, baby.
Out of 6 teams, out of a 16 league, you know.
And you guys got to wait till the end of the show because at the very end, we're going to give you our ride or die homies. These are 2 guys each that we're picking in all our drafts that we've kind of fallen in love with already. And we're going to ride or die with them, basically. So we'll get to that at the end of the show. What you want to do, though, first, John, is hit that like button, right?
Right down there.
Just tap it.
Just tap it.
It's good YouTube algorithm. He likes it. And then you're going to want to subscribe because guess what, John?
For sure.
We do this every week.
Every damn week.
Every week. And we're going to bring you nuggets every week until kickoff of your season. So you're going to want to subscribe and you hit that little notification bell so that it notifies you each week when we release a video. And generally speaking, Saturday mornings when you wake up, Fantasy Sports Island is there for you.
I mean, honestly, it's like Christmas Eve every Saturday.
Every
You know what I
Saturday.
mean? You just wake up, it's Christmas morning, actually. Oh, I have a present. I have a present waiting for me on my computer.
Just
You're
like
welcome.
that.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, folks. And now, before we get started, we got to go over the news and notes around the NFL. And I got a few. First one's pretty big news. We'll start with you, Tony, because Baker Mayfield, he finally got traded to the Carolina Panthers for a 5th-round conditional pick. What do you think? Does this help the Carolina Panthers?
Well, I know I'm definitely it helped me make up my mind. I'm probably definitely not gonna draft Cam Newton this year. I think it helps him. Yeah, man. It's probably gonna, help the running game a little bit. We get to laugh at Baker a little bit. He's gonna have problems with his shoulder a little bit, but I think it's gonna help the team. Whatever. I'm not too excited about it, man. But it might help him out a little bit.
Baker Mayfield's got to be an upgrade from the guy with the big head on the Panthers, Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I mean, John, his head's bigger than yours, brother.
It's huge. It's a huge cranium. Listen, all I want to know is, are they going to move Baker's house? You know what I mean? Like, are the commercials going to be now where is that a moving truck coming in? Is that the first one? Somebody from the racetrack coming over to greet him as a neighbor. I don't know. These are the things that, because fantasy football wise, I don't give a shit. I think he's average quarterback at best, but I want to know about the commercials.
I think it helps DJ Moore. I think he's a more accurate passer than Sam Darnold, so I think it helps DJ Moore. I'm not sure it helps Christian McCaffrey though, because Sam Darnold was captain check down. If he felt pressure, he would dump it off. Baker Mayfield doesn't really do that. Maybe it's because he didn't have a weapon like Christian McCaffrey out in Cleveland, but I think it could hurt Christian McCaffrey's stock just a little bit.
I don't know. He threw to Kareem Hunt a lot. I mean,
That's
not
true.
Last year, but the year before, he threw to Kareem a lot. I think Christian's going to be fine. Actually, I am looking for a giant bounce back year for Christian McCaffrey, no matter who's the quarterback. And I think he's an upgrade from Darnold. I think he's a winner. I mean, I don't like Baker Mayfield particularly, but I do think he's a winner. I think he'll help the team. I just don't know if you're going, I got to get me some Robbie Anderson this year, right? I mean, but you weren't saying that with Sam Darnold as the quarterback either. So,
No, true. All right. Nick Underhill from New Orleans Football reports via Twitter that there was a Michael Thomas sighting, folks. He was running routes in a video that he posted on his Instagram feed.
Don't you tease me.
Michael Thomas is back. Where's Royce when you need him? Do we have any faith that Michael Thomas can revert to some sort of form that he used to have? Maybe catch 90 to 100 balls this year? Is that in the realm of possibility, John?
Yeah. Jameis can throw if he plays and can play a season. I mean, shit, he's rested. He ain't tired. His legs aren't tired.
Right.
Now, do I think he might pull a hammy second game? I do. I think there's a real good possibility of that. But if he stays healthy, he's still a big, fast dude who's been resting, and I think he'll manage to have a pretty good season. Jameis can toss the ball now, and it's not like there's that many people vying for targets there. I mean, you got what's this nuts from who came from Cleveland?
Landry.
Landry, thank you.
And Chris Olave.
Yeah, Chris Olave's fantastic. But again,
And the same shit group of receivers they had last year are now like their depth.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think Thomas is a good sleeper.
Okay. Currently, I think you can get Thomas in like the 6th round, which you can play him as your wide receiver 3 if you're good at, sneaky and get 2 wide receivers ahead of him. That's not a bad wide receiver 3 to have because he's capable of 100 catches, 1,000 yards, and maybe 10 touchdowns too. So he could finish in the top 12 at at wide receiver, which is a home run if you're picking him as a wide receiver 3.
And I will say this: if he finishes in the top 12 at running back, he's really done something.
He's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Debo, Debo.
Yeah, he's Debo reborn. Who knew?
I've been reading that his attitude's improved a little bit too. He's been humbled a little bit, Like you said, he got a lot of rest. Who knows? He might surprise us and have a halfway decent season.
Kind of digging him.
All right. I would like that. Honestly, Michael Thomas is one of my favorite receivers when he was, with Drew Brees in his heyday. So I would like to see him make a comeback. It would be cool.
Yeah, me too. I like a good comeback story.
Cool. Matt Schneidman from The Athletic reports that Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers is excited about wide receiver Allen Lazard getting an opportunity to be the team's #1 wide receiver. Quote from Aaron Rodgers: "He's been our dirty work guy for most of the career here, and now he's getting an opportunity to be a #1 receiver. So I'm not worried about him at all stepping into that role." Now, when the reporter says it, it's one thing, but when Aaron Rodgers says it, he said it out loud. He's our #1 wide receiver. I take stock in that, John. I think Allen Lazard is now moving up my board, maybe 10, 12 wide receiver spots, because Aaron Rodgers said he's his #1.
Yeah. Remember, Adams was on the team for 4 years before he became their #1 receiver. So almost 3 years, 4 years, something like that, before he became the guy that we remembered as Adams. So why not Lazard in his 4th year with the team? I'm totally with you. Look, I heard that and I was like, write that down real quick. Let's just write that Lazard name. And actually, if you remember, in our little mock draft the other day, Johnny Ballgame drafted him fairly late in the draft.
That you did. Tony, Are you more impressed with Alan Lazard now, or does it mean
Yeah,
nothing?
absolutely. You guys have seen some games where he's been
The Wizard
remarkable
King.
from time to time. I mean, he doesn't put up, those weekly numbers because he wasn't a number one, but now he is. And he definitely has the potential to do that. So between him and a good QB, I'm feeling number one. I'm feeling a good pick there.
Like it.
All right. And we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson. We're not going to talk about Deshaun Watson. Not this week. Let's move on. Let's do our NFC East divisional breakdown right now.
NFC East Divisional Breakdown.
Boom.
All right. NFC East for fantasy purposes. In order of predicted finish by Vegas, you have the Cowboys, you have the Eagles, you have the Commanders, and you have the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants. Let's start with the Cowboys. I want to go over a few of the guys on the Cowboys that are fantasy relevant to us. Tony, who's your favorite fantasy get on the Cowboys?
Well, you're going to have to go Dak Prescott. I mean, I think he's going to have. I said it last year, and I firmly believe it this year. I know that they have wide receiver changes. I know the system has changed slightly, but it's for the best, I think. And I think he's going to have a hell of a season. And he's Dak Prescott, man. I mean, as long as he stay's healthy, he's going to be, he's always going to be in the top 5. So that's my number one guy to choose when the Cowboys come up.
Let me give you a stat. Since 2019, when Kellen Moore became the offensive coordinator, the Cowboys are first in pace of play, meaning they run the most offensive plays at the fastest rate in the NFL since he came in. That's going to continue. So just because of the volume, Dak should be a good pickup. And you're getting him later in the draft. He's not a top 5 quarterback being picked in the drafts. He's down in the 8 to 10 range, I believe. So you can get value with Dak Prescott. Now, do we like his weapons? John, do we like CeeDee Lamb?
He's my number one get on this team. I love CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb had a crap year last year and finished with over 1,000 yards. And we're all like, CeeDee Lamb sucks. The guy sucks. Still had 1,000 yards last season in a down year.
We were calling a pee-pee sheep.
I know.
That's how bad he was.
I get it. I get it. We all thought he sucked, and yet still put 1,000 down, 6 trips to the end zone. I mean, pretty good. The guy's good. His third-year receivers always do. The star receivers always kind of break out in the third year. Now I love me some CeeDee Lamb this year.
Now they added Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama, who's a very good deep threat. They still have in their back pockets Michael Gallup will be coming back from the ACL injury.
Yeah.
Probably missed the first 6 weeks, I'm going to guess. And then you got Tony Pollard, who he was starting to pepper with targets. You still got Zeke, and they added James Washington.
They added James Washington, yeah.
Washington too, yeah.
So do we think is that enough weapons to make Dallas a potent fantasy offense?
Yeah, especially if Gallup comes back healthy. You've got Lamb, Gallup, and James Washington. That's really, it's not a bad group of 3 receivers right there with James Washington in here. And then you send Jalen Tolbert every now and then on some deep routes just to see what he's got.
Yep.
Yeah. I think I actually like Dak. I like CD. I don't like Pollard as much because I think they're still kind of financially tied to Zeke. So I think they're going to split carries just like they did last year.
So let's talk a little. Let's get a little more in depth with that. I was going to go with let's do a battle between Zeke and Pollard in the draft world based on their ADPs. Who would we rather get in the draft? Would it be Zeke, probably in the 4th round, or would it be a couple rounds later getting Pollard?
So, Tony, do you want to go on this? You want me to?
Well, that's your boy, so go ahead.
Zeke's going around running back 17 right now, and Pollard's going at 32. So who do I think's a better? I think they're going to have pretty close to the same numbers. I like Pollard a little bit more because I think he catches the ball a little bit more. So I might like Pollard as a bargain in the 6th or 7th, because I think you can get him there in the 6th or 7th as an RB2 or 3. I think I like that better than I like Zeke at running back 17.
Tony, what do you think?
But well, like you said, they're still stuck with splitting. They got to give Zeke the ball. So, yeah, I mean, I would still take Zeke. I mean, but I think Pollard's more exciting, man. I think he's a little healthier, you know. And I really think that's the guy that should be starting, but they're not going to do it. So, yeah, I think Pollard might be a steal, especially if something happens to Zeke.
Oh,
I got a prediction. Yeah. I think it's going to be like back in the day, Ingram and Kamara. I think Ingram's going to be Zeke Elliott. I think Kamara is going to be Pollard. I think that's the way they're going to do it. I think Pollard's going to catch 90 balls this year.
Are they going to call him Polara?
I like Polara a lot, especially at the value in the draft at the ADP he's at currently. I would take him. I'm not big on Zeke. Like Tony said, I think he's breaking down, and I think this is it. I think this is the year where things change in favor of Pollard. That's just the way I feel about it. Last nugget.
God, he's just tough to trust. He's just tough to trust every week. He's a fantastic handcuff. He's tough to trust. He reminds me a little bit of Madison from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Right? Like all the talent in the world, should be a starting running back on a team behind a star. But if those stars get injured, and they do, fantastic to have on your team. And man, are you glad you got him.
Yeah. All right. One little nugget that we haven't talked about yet, and that's Dalton Schultz, tight end for the Cowboys. Last season, when Amari Cooper was out, Dalton Schultz averaged 14 fantasy points a game. He only scored 12 when Cooper was out. So he increased by 2 points a game, which is significant when Cooper was out. Also, target-wise, with Cooper, 5.9 targets a game. Without him, he was getting 7.5. So Dak relies on him a little bit more over the middle of the field. Without Amari Cooper, we know Amari's in Cleveland now. I like Dalton Schultz in this offense. I think he's a top 5 tight end.
Yeah, especially without, like you said, they don't have a ton of established receivers. They've got CD. Washington's getting up there a little bit. I think you might be onto something there. I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I think he's going to be top 5, I think, the first half of the season. And I think when Dak gets used to the wide receivers get used to him, that he might fizzle out a little bit. But we'll see.
Did you see Tony Nostradamus turn his hat around?
It's like all of a sudden he's like, let me tell you actually what's going to happen, boys.
Now, let me show you.
Yeah.
He did the
ball. All about the Cowboys. All about.
Oh, yeah. Big Cowboy guy.
All right. Let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a funny stat. Since 2000, only 6 running backs finished an entire season with at least 150 touches, 900 yards from scrimmage, and 0 touchdowns. Kevin Falk, Duke Johnson, Michael Pittman Sr., not Jr., Charles Sims, Marcel Shipp, and 2021 running back Miles Sanders.
Wow.
Do we think, just regression to the mean, that Miles Sanders is going to get a couple touchdowns this year?
Yeah, he's due.
Right?
He's due. Yeah. Yeah, he's due.
Value-wise, you're picking Miles Sanders probably in the 7th or 8th round.
Yeah.
He does add a couple touchdowns, and he kind of produces exactly the same amount of yards and catches as last year. That is probably an RB2.
Yeah.
There's value there. How do we feel about him?
I liked him going into last season, if you remember right. Like I liked Sanders going into last season. Then first half of the year, I'm like, where'd Miles go? Right. But I mean, he looked good down the stretch with everything except for touchdowns. Had some nice games. Gets hurt a little bit too much for me. Seems like he's always missing some time. They didn't re-sign Jordan Howard, so you don't have that guy vulture in some touchdowns or vulture in, some of the runs that they were getting. But of course, they still got Boston Scott, who seems to steal share constantly.
You know who else they have? They have Scott Boston too. He's good too.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The guy with 2 first names. Just flip him. Doesn't matter. He's a different person if you just flip his name.
I was like, wait a minute, that's not true.
You're like, what? They got
They got Kenny.
Gainwell.
They got Kenny. Yeah, they got Kenny Gainwell.
Didn't he have a
too,
crappy
so-
season? I mean,
Yeah,
he didn't
Kenny
do
gained
much.
less.
Kenny,
Yeah, that guy.
Kenny did not gain well.
He did not gain well.
Hmm.
Kenny did not.
All right, let's talk about AJ Brown. He has never finished lower than 5th in yards per route among wide receivers in the NFL. So he's a deep threat. He's a guy that.
Thank God he got a quarterback. I can't even
Right.
say it.
So my thing is the quarterback issue. Jalen Hurts is inaccurate, but Jalen Hurts has also never had a wide receiver like AJ Brown. So is it the chicken before the egg kind of argument? Is it Jalen Hurts sucks, or is it because he didn't have weapons? And we're about to find out. What do we think about AJ Brown, Tony?
Well, he's great, but I mean, how can you say he didn't really have weapons? Now, they didn't have an AJ Brown, but he had guys to throw to. So, I mean, they finished better, right? I mean, he threw a little bit more. I think if they get him to throw it and they trust him, because they run, 60% of the time. I'm still a little nervous, man. I mean, I don't know if AJ is going to be. That's why. I mean, I dropped him down in our ratings a couple weeks ago. I'm like, I don't really trust him. No, I shouldn't say I don't trust him. I don't trust Hurts. I like Hurts, but I don't know, man. What about? Didn't you love Quez? Wasn't Quez your boy last year?
I like Quez as a DFS play in week 1, but I did say he would finish as an overall, I believe, wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I feel like you gave a gut feel on that.
I mean, there's some depth there at wide receiver, and those guys still didn't quite impress.
Well, they have Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Who was a rookie last year, and he did come close to 1,000 yards. It was very close. But
it was a 900. We only had a couple touchdowns, though, right?
That's the thing. He only had 2 touchdowns, and he was wide receiver 41 overall on a per game basis, which is not good. But I do feel like they're going to open the offense up a little more. They're going to attempt what they did in the first half of last season, and let's see what they have. They got AJ Brown for a reason. They still have Dallas Goedert, who was a top 2 tight end in yards after the catch, next to George Kittle. So they have weapons.
I think Devontae is actually going to have a better year because of AJ Brown. I think AJ is going to take a lot of attention. I think they put Devontae in as a slot. He's a really good pure route runner, and I think when you get AJ taking number 1 receiver defense away, I think Devontae has a way better year this year. So, and again, he as a rookie, 951 yards or something like that. I can't remember. It was over 900. It's a pretty good year for a rookie.
Yeah, they got somebody else too, don't they?
Yeah, they got Zach Pascal.
Yeah, they picked up Zach. They got Jalen Rieger, Greg Ward. Those big names.
Man.
Those guys are on the bubble though of making the roster.
Yeah, of course they are.
They are.
Jalen Rieger and Greg Ward.
They're not projected to make the roster.
Wasn't Rieger a former number 1 pick?
Yeah, he was their number 1 pick. That was a bust.
Good one.
They should trade him. They should trade him. Last thing I want to talk about. The Eagles have the number 1 rated offensive line according to Pro Football PFF.
PFF, yeah.
Pro Football Focus. Number 1 offensive line. That's something. It's going to give them time to throw the ball. They are going to have a good running game. I like the Eagles' fantasy prospects. I still like them, any one in particular more than the other. I think as a whole, the Eagles' offense will be good, but I'm not high on any particular player in fantasy.
I'm kind of like you. Like I feel like if I'm in a late round, I might pick one. I might do that. I think Hurts is actually going to surpass where people are putting him. I think a lot of people are counting him out. The guy is a winner, and he does figure out how to get, stats or whatever. So yeah, I'm not excited about Brown.
Yeah. I mean, but if you're in a league that rewards 6 points for touchdowns for rushing versus 4 for passing, Jalen Hurts is very valuable. Yeah. He's going to run in a lot of touchdowns. And so he'll probably
had 26 total touchdowns last year.
Exactly. He'll probably be a top 5 or 10 quarterback in a league like that. In our league, where accuracy matters, where we give a point for a completion and a negative point for an incompletion, and we give 6 points for all touchdowns, he's not as valuable. He's on the bottom top, maybe top 12, maybe.
How close did I come on my hot take of him.
Hurts would outscore
Kyler
Murray. I think he did because Kyler Murray missed a few games. Now, we should probably measure it by per game. We'll do that next week. All right. Let's talk about the Washington Commandos. Tony, we have to talk about them. I'm going to start you off with this nugget. Now, Terry McLaurin, I think we're kind of on, even though he got the big contract. But let me tell you this. Terry McLaurin has never caught a pass from a quarterback ranked higher than 25th in deep ball completion rate. Okay? Last year, Carson Wentz ranked 6th in deep ball completion percentage.
Hey, a nice step for Carson for a change.
So
Somebody
Carson
said something
Wentz,
positive about
he doesn't do a lot of things great, but one thing he does do well is throw the deep ball. And now Terry McLaurin, who is a good deep ball catcher of the ball, can they connect and this could be good for Terry McLaurin? This was something that I looked at and went, maybe I'm undervaluing McLaurin.
Wow, that's a hell of a nugget, dude. I did not know that. You know, and I think I hate to always say this about Wentz. I mean, here's the thing. Wentz did improve a little bit last year compared to the year before.
Actually, he looked good the first half of the season.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. I mean, I picked him up in a couple leagues for, backups and fill-ins and stuff, and he scored okay. The potential is still there, but you throwing me that stat is kind of interesting. That kind of has me intrigued a little bit. So, something might come of that. I'm still not running out to grab, Wentz, but I kind of like I said, I didn't realize that last week, so I kind of like McLaurin a little bit more now.
I like McLaurin a little more because of that stat, but I also like Jahan Dotson on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's explosive, and if Carson Wentz likes him a little better than McLaurin, maybe he doesn't throw deep to McLaurin. Maybe he throws deep to Dotson. So I want to see how this plays out. I'm still not high on McLaurin yet. J.D. McKissick has finished inside the top 10 in yards per route amongst running backs in each of the last 2 seasons. Okay, so he's back in the fold. We know Antonio Gibson has missed a lot of opportunities hitting the hole. Yeah. We also know that they brought in the rookie, Brian Robinson Jr., who may take over the goal line situation in short yardage. Gibson's got to go down in your rankings, right?
Yeah, he's right now his average draft rate places like 27th, 28th, somewhere in the late 20s. I don't want him there. Yeah, I don't want Gibson there. I don't trust him. You're getting McKissick in the 50s. You're getting Robinson in the 60s. Those are way better values. I like McKissick in the 50s. I love that. Because I feel like that's a value. That guy's going to catch a crap ton of passes.
It's all based on game script. When the Commandos get behind, they bring in J.D. McKissick. Value. If they're playing from ahead, Gibson's getting more touches, maybe a little bit of Brian Robinson Jr.
I have something to say about that. The Commandos are hardly ever ahead. So
good point.
I feel pretty good about McKissick.
John,
yes,
they are the fucking Commanders now. They're different. They're better now.
Yeah. No, they really upgraded in a lot of spots. Really. Good job, boys. Nice.
All right. Let's talk about the other receivers that they have. They have Curtis Samuel. Do we like Curtis Samuel this year?
I mean, he's getting drafted, but he's getting drafted really late. We didn't like last year. He didn't do anything. He was hurt most of the year. So, which it sounds like pretty much his entire career.
Then we got a bunch of Jags, and these are just another guy. Jags. Cam Sims, De'Ami Brown, Antonio Gandy Golden. These guys aren't draftable in fantasy, right? No value. What do we think about Logan Thomas at the tight end position? He's coming back from a torn ACL. John, does he definitely has value because you can get him real late. But do you think he'll come through?
If he can recover from the ACL, then I love him. He manages to catch balls. He manages to get yards. I think he's just always underrated. But again, blown ACL, and he pretty late in the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like November, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I know they're claiming he's ahead of schedule, but I mean, how do you hold off Ricky Seals Jones in the tight end room though? You know what I mean? That guy's got 3 names.
Yeah, I love that. I love Thomas also, but we got to see his his health. He's still probably on the pup, right? Or is he doing anything, any kind of activities or anything? I mean,
I said he's ahead of schedule. That's all.
He's ahead of schedule. That's all we know. We'll know more when training camp starts in a couple weeks here. We'll see if he gets out there. He's
I was wrong. Ricky Seals Jones isn't even on the team anymore. I think he went to.
No, he is not. Ricky Seals Jones is gone.
RSJ not going to steal any targets anymore.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the New York Football Giants. Since 2020, the Giants have ranked 18th in pace and passing rate. They throw the ball 56% of the time. Over that same span, the guy that's their new coordinator or coach, Brian Daboll from the Bills were 7th and 2nd in those same categories. So, Daboll's philosophy, offense, etc., is coming over to the Giants. Will that change the way the Giants play? Will that be beneficial to quarterback Daniel Jones? Tony.
It's supposed to be beneficial, man. It's supposed to be. You got 4, in my opinion, highly capable, above average wide receivers. And those 4 wide receivers are highly capable of missing 5 games each. So that is going to be a struggle. They need to get that damn running game going, man. That's what they need to get going. Yep. Without that, I don't think they can depend, on passing. I think Dimes might be a little bit better this year. I look forward to seeing that, but I don't trust it.
Well, what do we think of Saquon Barkley? The Giants have improved the offensive line, the vibes in the camps. All the reports are good. Saquon looks explosive. John, any faith in Saquon?
Yeah. So last year, I think everybody knows how down I was on Saquon, and the year before was really down on Saquon. I'm up on him this year. I think he's going to be a top 10 running back. I like Daboll's offense better for him. I mean, Singletary got a bunch of breakaway runs last year towards the end of the year. I think Daboll put him in that position to do that. So I like Saquon. I like him a lot, actually. And I think Danny Dimes is going to be much better this year.
John, you also said that you like day balls as opposed to night balls. You don't like those?
Yeah, no, you know what? I like to wake up with my balls. You know what I mean? I like them in the day. Yeah. I feel like it's good.
Nice. Yeah. All right, let me give you another nugget. Giants wide receivers last year ranked 75th and 81st in receiver yards and catch per target.
And that's bad, right? I just want to make sure.
Excuse me, let me rephrase that. 75th and 81st in receiver yards after the catch per target. During their final seasons in college, their new draft pick, Wan'Dale Robinson, and their pick the year before, Kadarius Toney, ranked 10th and 7th in yards after the catch. So those guys are good at, after the catch, making something happen. The Giants are notoriously bad at that. Daboll is aggressive offensively. Does this, and I think Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney are going to be the starting 2 wide receivers. So that improves the offense, John?
I think so. If Toney can stay healthy, because again, he also had some injury. So like our Toney just said, they all have a shot at missing 5 games each. But yeah, I think Kenny Galladay is probably not going to be the starter, even though they paid him the big giant contract last year. I think Kadarius Toney and then Wan'Dale. Galladay might start the season as the starter, but I think Wan'Dale Robinson is going to take that over. I think that kid's got some talent. God, he looks good. Yeah, I'm going to make a call right now. Do you guys want to hear my call?
Yes.
The Giants are going to win the NFC East.
What?
The Giants are going to win the NFC East this year. Giants. Just write it down. You heard it here. It's 7/7/2002, 9:24 Central Time. I don't know what time you're watching this, but yeah, Giants.
All right. Pop quiz, Tony.
Yeah.
Quarterback rushing yard leader since 2020. Number 1 is Lamar Jackson. But do you know where Daniel Jones finished in total rushing yards amongst quarterbacks?
Don't start. Are you shitting me? No.
I didn't. You don't know. He finished 6th. It was Lamar, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Cam Newton, Daniel Jones since 2020.
It was a little bit of a head fake, Chuck.
But it is a guy that actually gets a lot of rushing yards quietly that we don't realize. He's 6th.
But I'm still trying. You're like, Lamar was first. Guess where Daniel finished?
Well, I had to make it a quiz.
Spots later. Yeah.
I thought he was going to say 2.
Me too. I was like, there's no way,
man. There's no
Hey,
way.
I like tricking you on the quiz, Tony. Sorry.
Like I'm going to know anyway.
We talked about Ricky Seals-Jones earlier. He's on the Giants.
Okay.
He's their tight end.
So,
Instead of Evan Ingram, they got Ricky Seals-Jones. And I think they upgraded.
The greatest news for Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson owners. That's all I'm gonna say.
on their way to that,
Yeah.
that division.
Congratulations, boys.
You know who else they got, John?
Who dat?
Matt Breida.
All
Listen,
right.
man. That guy's a breeder. That guy's a breeder. He's a touchdown breeder.
They also still have Darius Slayton and CJ Board, if anybody cares.
Mhm.
They also, for depth at tight end, they have Jordan Akins. I think this offense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. But other than Saquon, and I think I like Kadarius Toney, those are the only 2 guys I like in fantasy.
I like Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is going to finish.
After all that shit talking, now you
Top
like
10.
Daniel Jones.
Yeah, he said that. You
Top
said that
10.
a couple weeks ago, man. From what I remember.
Yeah. Top 10 fantasy quarterback by the end of the season, Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Okay.
John, do you remember about 4 weeks in last year, Daniel Jones was like a top 3 quarterback,
Yeah.
and we all just said it's
Nah.
bullshit.
Yeah. I go with no.
After that, he was really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went downhill quick. But so
It's hard to trust. It's a ballsy call to say he's going to finish top 10.
listen to me. Who was he throwing to last year? He didn't have a starting receiver
Didn't,
stay
man.
healthy. Not once did he have his starting team. Not once. And he had the most boring play caller in the history of boring play callers.
No running game. Every wide receiver was either banged up,
Or just missing completely. Yeah.
injured. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. And the line, dude, he was running all the time. Like, because I think he's what, 6th in yards? Is that what it was?
I'll tell you
Yeah,
what,
I mean,
Lamar was first. I
Do you
mean,
have
I'll
a
tell you
point?
that right now.
I'm glad we're talking about this. I'm kind of getting excited about this division now. It might be a little bit closer.
DJ, top 10. Top 10 for Daniel Jones. He's not my ride or die later, just so you guys know. Spoiler.
All right.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, Johnny. All right. Pay attention to what I'm saying now. Okay. If you are a newbie in fantasy football and you're going to do your first draft this year, you want to hit record right now. Make sure you catch this segment
Where's the
because
book?
Johnny Ballgame's going to drop freaking nuggets on how to draft, what kind of strategy to bring to the draft. And even if you're a veteran of drafts, you might learn something today in this segment. We're all going to drop a little bit of nugget. All right, here we go.
Draft 101.
Draft 101. I'll start with you, John. What's your best advice going into a draft?
First of all, you have way oversold this segment. I just want to make sure you know that. So maybe don't hit record yet. Maybe listen and then you can decide if you want to delete later. So yeah, go ahead and record. So here's my thing. Everybody seems to want to race out. And Royce had brought this up the other day, and I 100% agreed with this. Royce, by the way, is not usually, sometimes on our show, and sometimes, most of the time, skates out on us. So thanks, Royce. Nice to see you today. Oh, that's right. You're not here. I like to get a stud in my positions first, and then I come back. And what I mean by that is a lot of people do that. They want 2 running backs within the first 3 or 4 picks. I don't. I want my stud running back first. If a stud's not there, I'm going to my first quarterback because in our league, quarterbacks get a lot of points.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for, I don't care so much about this whole running back theory and all that stuff. I want a great running back, a great quarterback, and a great wide receiver. My first 3 picks. That's what I want. And if I get that, that's the core of your team. Now you either come back with a tight end if there's value at the tight end, or then you come back with another running back if it's there. But stop trying to grab a couple of running backs, because all you're doing is killing yourself in the receiver group. Or you're going to settle for a quarterback and you'd be like, well, I could stream quarterbacks. Well, you're an idiot if you're going to stream quarterbacks. All right. Find a great quarterback, because great quarterbacks win fantasy leagues. So I know we all want the unicorn running back and the stud, and it's hard because there's not that many great running backs. But let me just say that again. There's not that many great running backs. So after the top 10, you could put 12 through 25 in a box, shake it up, and you're going to get about the same production. So why are you going to waste a spot where you might get a really great wide receiver for a second tier running back?
Good advice, John. Now, Tony, give me some advice.
Give you some advice. Do not take my advice is probably the best thing that I can say.
Strong. It's like literally some of the best
very.
advice you have given in a long time, dude.
Absolutely. Now there's a little thing that I do here, and it has worked for me in a few leagues. Our league doesn't always work because you guys are too damn difficult. But what I like to do is sort of what we did in the mock draft, is I like to steal, once I get my QB, if I'm comfortable with where my running backs, wide receiver, or running back, wide receiver, like Johnny's saying, if I'm good with that, sometimes in like around the 6th round, if there's a hell of a QB again still available, I like to grab them. And I do it for 2 reasons. One, strategically, sometimes it screws some of the other teams. And 2, well, I'd like to say 3 things. 2, I have an issue. I tend to have bad luck with QB sometimes. They miss 2-3 games. I want a good QB more than just for a bye week. Also, it is fantastic trade bait when it comes down to it. If you have a major injury or something that you weren't able to grab, like a second wide receiver, whatever, you can trade that dude 7, 8, 10 weeks in and get some good value out of him.
Also, that screams to, the masses always say, wait on a quarterback, wait on a quarterback, wait on a quarterback. But Tony's the freaking reason why you don't necessarily want to wait for quarterback.
Yeah, that's exactly
because
right.
it might dry up quick before you get your quarterback. And now what are you going to do? You're going to settle for Carson Wentz? Okay? You're going to settle for Matt Ryan? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't listen.
Daniel Jones. I mean,
don't listen to the masses. Do your thing. Get the guy you want a quarterback. All right.
Yes.
I'm gonna go more ground level basic here for you newbies. I'm starting from scratch here. Do not bring a freaking fantasy magazine to your draft. These are outdated. They have terrible rankings and content because they're generally a month or more old. Okay. If you're the guy bringing the magazine to the draft, you're the sucker.
Just click auto draft at that point.
Bring your own rankings.
You've already lost. Yeah.
Bring your own rankings. Rank them in the order that you want to pick them, in the exact order that you want to pick them. Okay. Once the draft starts, start crossing out the players that got took. That way, when it comes time for you to pick, you're not missing out on a guy you forgot about. He's right there on your list next. Take him. All right. Also, use ADP as a tool, average draft position. When you go into the draft knowing what the ADP is, you don't pick a guy 2 or 3 or 8 rounds too early like we saw a couple years ago. Tony, do you remember when they took Nicole Hardman in the 3rd round when he was probably a 10th round value? Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Use ADP so you understand where these guys normally go, and you could take them maybe a round early instead of 3 or 4 rounds early. All right? Yep. That's my advice to the newbie coming into a draft. Do we have more nuggets? John, I'm coming back to you.
Yeah. So later round wide receivers, there's this tendency to look for 2nd and 3rd receivers on really pass happy teams, right? Like, I want Kansas City's 2nd receiver. And the 1st receiver on bad teams tends to get overlooked. I love number 1 receivers. All of my team, you'll always see me. I fill it out with number 1 wide receivers, even on shitty teams. Brandon Cooks Houston Texans, terrible team. Brandon Cooks kills it every single year. Look for those guys towards the back half of your middle to back half of your draft. Nobody ever wants the Carolina Panthers receiver. Nobody ever wants the Texans receiver. But they're still number one receivers, and everybody's like, well, I want the sexy number 2 receiver on Kansas City. Never works out. Never do those guys ever score more than a first receiver.
Go ahead, Tony. Hit me.
Here's something that's kind of important that I tell some of the newbies, and I'll give you some examples of that too. I play 4 or 5 different leagues, right? And every league has different rules, and it's different. The rosters are different. You know, the positions are how many tight ends you can have, whether there's a flex position, whether you can play 3 wide receivers. I'm in one league that I play with buddies in Ohio, and you play 2 QBs. Know the rules. If you don't know the rules and you're scrambling during the draft, you're going to screw it up for yourself. That is part of the strategy, is know the rules, know where you're going to draft, how you're going to draft, so on and so forth. And I got one story that cracks me up to this day, but it was kind of embarrassing. It was one of our big leagues, right? It was back in the day with Don. As a matter of fact, Chuck, we were drafting at, I think, your condo when you were living in like Panorama or something.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. Yeah.
Way back in the day. And you guys needed an extra team. And I called my buddy in Vegas, Steve. This guy is a huge gambler. He played college football. He's a starting offensive lineman. Brilliant at the game, right? Also fantastic with fantasy. He did not look at how our rules were. So he's playing head-to-head and this and that and whatever. I asked him to play. He's like, hell yeah, I'll get in your league. And it pays good money and so on and so forth. In the 5th round, he drafts a kicker. You guys all laughed your asses off. He was on the phone and he's like, what are they laughing at? He's like, I got David Akers, dude. The guy's money. I'm like, not in our league, bro. You got to
not in the 5th round. Yeah.
Yeah. And he ended up getting last place, and he was the laughing stock of the league. And I'm like, but this guy knows football better than all of us put together. If you don't know the rules, you're not going to succeed. That's my advice.
Good tip.
I got some advice. Have a strategy coming in and stick to your strategy. But within your strategy, make sure you can be flexible, because the draft is a fluid event. Things happen that you don't expect to happen. So you got to be prepared. If there's a run on running backs, to be able to go wide receiver. If there's a run at wide receiver, be able to come get a quarterback. Try not to be the guy that last picks his running back. You know what I mean? You get the worst of the top tier running backs, and you get the worst at wide receiver because you're letting them dictate the draft to you. You need to dictate the draft. So you need to have a strategy coming in and be flexible. At the same time, you don't want to go into a draft with a plan and then go, oh man, I think I'm going to change my plan here at the last minute and just kind of on the fly change up my entire plan. That never works. Stick to your guns. Have a plan, go at it, and do it. All right? But be flexible. So it's kind of a catch-22. You need to have flexibility in your plan.
So stick to your plan no matter what, unless you don't.
Stick to your overall plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And be flexible. But don't just throw your plan to the wind and just decide to go on the fly at the last minute.
But along with that, and to kind of support what you were saying about the flexibility piece of it, some people get so ingrained in their own team that they don't pay attention to what the other teams are doing. The other teams, especially the ones in front or in back of you, are incredibly important, because if you go, I need a quarterback this round, I'm going to get a quarterback this round, and you're looking at possible quarterbacks still on the list, and then you're looking at the people who are drafting before you in the next couple of spots, you want to know, do they already have a quarterback? What's the likelihood of them drafting a quarterback? And you want to be able to sort of guess a little bit, but an educated guess on where they're going to go to figure out what player you want to draft. Let's say they don't have a quarterback and you know for a fact they need a quarterback and they're going to get a quarterback that round, and the only quarterback on there is for that round they're going to take. Now you start looking at, all right, I'm going to get a receiver instead because I need one here, and I'll get a quarterback when I come back around. right?
that.
So try to pay attention to what the people in front of you are doing, because it's going to really dictate where you're going to go with your next pick.
Good. How about don't be a homer? Don't be the guy that's a homer where you have to pick guys from your team.
Yeah.
Every year, we know who we're talking about, Tony, when the same guy picks 49ers every year, too early. We already know he's going to take Kittle somewhere in the first or second round.
Yep.
And this
Given.
year he's going to take Debo in the second round.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to take,
You think he's going to wait till second round to get Debo? That's
he's
his
going to get
first
Trey
round pick.
Lance too early.
Yeah.
You know this guy, right?
Right.
Don't be that guy. Be able to pick guys that are properly valued where you're picking them. Don't be the homer. And also, don't drink at the draft. Don't get drunk. Don't get high for the draft where you make stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Come sober. You can have fun without the fucking alcohol for an hour or two.
It's a good point. I always ruin my last two picks when we'd have the big group drafts, because by the last two picks, you're like getting excited for football and like, I'll crack another beer. And then you get home and you look at your roster like, dude, why did I there's like five guys better that I could have. Why did I do that? Those late draft choices. That brings me to another bit here is know your rookies and know your sleepers. The rookies have a lot of value there. If you don't know rookies, you're missing out. Yeah. And you got to know this. Everybody, the people like old school dudes sometimes are just like, well, they look for those starters, and I get it. But a lot of people were down on Chase a little bit. For the Bengals, they were just like, I was just like, well, he's a rookie. Is he going to be top 5? I doubt it, but do your homework, watch the videos, study camp, so on and so forth. Be prepared for those guys.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I've won a couple of leagues because of rookies. I'll still never forget the Edgerrin James year. Yes, I'm old, but Edgerrin James' rookie season, I drafted him, and people thought I was crazy. And I knew, like, there's just sometimes, and I was like, I know, I want that guy so bad, and got him and won the league. I mean, he was just unbelievable.
Also, you need to be able to take a little bit of risk, like the year you took Adrian Peterson coming off of a torn ACL. Everyone was down on him. Johnny was like, nope, I'm taking him in the first round. Took him. He almost set the NFL record for rushing yards that year. Yep. And he was the number 1 player in fantasy football, and John won the league.
Good season.
Yeah.
It was a good season.
My last bit of advice, and this is the most important advice of all the things we've said today. Take this and write it down. Mock draft. Mock draft. Mock draft again. And when you're finished doing that, mock draft again. The more you prepare, the easier it will be come game day.
Yep.
Practice makes perfect. Just mock. You don't have to mock the whole draft, right, John? Just a few rounds. Just to know. Get a feel.
The first 4 rounds are just so damn important. Do a 4 or 5 round mock draft just to get the feel several times. I could not agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. I have 2 more. One's a real quick one. Don't do a podcast and tell everybody what you want to do in the draft. So that's a piece.
I think we screwed the pooch on that one, John.
Jesus. Happens to me every year now. Defenses matter. Defenses matter. I know we like to kind of wait on those guys, but the top defense in our league was 5.1 points per game different than our number 10 defense. And while you go 5.1 points, that's not that much.
Yeah, it is.
In an overall season, that's 86.7 points more. And we are a points total draft. And you know how many our league? Do you know how many of our leagues come down to within 100 points? How many times our championship has come down easily within, sometimes it's 20, 30 points. And we've had some really close years.
John, I think I won by like 4 or 5 points total last year.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Down to that.
86 points is a big deal. And now you go from by the way, after the top 10 drops off precipitously. And I don't use that word very often. So you get that kind of an ass kicking. If you look at the amount from number 1 to the last place defense, that was 14 points per game. If you were a Jets defense owner, which, by the way, everyone thought the Jets defense was going to be fantastic because Robert Saleh had taken over as their head coach. They were last place.
And again, this goes to what Tony was saying. Know the rules.
196 points.
In our league, defenses score a lot of points.
Yeah.
And that you need to know that when you come into draft in our league.
Yep.
So Johnny makes a good point, and Tony, know your rules, and defenses matter. They matter, especially what matters the most is the difference between tiers, right? The top guys, how much more are they scoring than the
Yes.
next set of guys?
Yeah.
That's the difference. You need
And
to
I
know.
will say this: your top three, really good and worth that sort of mid-round somewhere in there pick. The next three, I'd wait a little bit because they all have about the same score. After that, you might as well just wait and stream. And by the way, if that's your goal, if that's what you think you're going to do, you're probably not going to win. So people
All right.
do that. I know they do it, and they go, "Oh, I can stream defenses." Defenses in our league really sucked last year. The defenses killed a lot of teams in our league last year.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully, you guys picked up some nuggets for you newbies out there. Maybe you took some notes. We hope we helped you. All right.
Good
Now,
luck to you.
Having said all that, we're going to tell you, even though this is against John's advice, 2 guys each that we're going to ride or die with. We call them our ride or die homies.
Ride or Die Homies.
These are 2 guys, most likely, that the Fantasy Reaper, Johnny Ballgame, and Sir Poop Slot will be taking in almost all their drafts. All right? Start with you, Tony. I want to hear your first ride or die guy.
My first guy, and I'll explain it, obviously, is right now I'm very high on Justin Jefferson. I think that they're going to be tremendous this year. At least he will be tremendous, and I'm hoping he's tremendous, and I'm obsessed with him right now. There's a few guys that possibly could be drafted ahead of him that are on systems that I think they're going to spread the ball around. I'm not going to give too many names. You guys can figure that out. And I also think some of the guys like again, if we're going to go AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, those guys, tremendous wide receivers, arguably possibly better than Justin Jefferson, but they're in new systems. And I don't know if they're going to shoot right out of the gate with their QBs. I think Justin Jefferson's going to kick ass from week 1 all the way through, especially if he stays healthy. That's my ride or die wide receiver right now.
All right.
I like it.
You have to get him pretty early in the top probably 5 picks of the draft. So
Yeah.
All right, John, who you ride or dying with?
This seems obvious, but this guy's going off as the 5th quarterback selected in average drafts. And I don't get it because I think he will easily be the number 1 quarterback this year. And it's Joe Burrow, Bengals. I want Joe Burrow in every league I play in this year. Like, I may draft him before I draft a running back. I've never seen a person with this many weapons, with that much ability. What he did coming off of a knee injury and still was unbelievable. And he's only going to be better this year. I want that guy. I want him in every league I can have.
All right. Wow. You think he's going to outscore Josh Allen?
100%.
All right. You heard it here first, folks.
That's a Johnny Ballgame gut right there. And for those of you who don't know the show, I get gut feelings on occasion. They're usually pretty good. My gut is telling me with everything I have in me that Joe Burrow is going to have one of the greatest fantasy seasons a quarterback has ever had this year.
And again, I'm going to tell you right now exactly what I tell my waitress when she's taking my order. Write it down. If you watch this show, Johnny has good gut feelings. And if you watch this show, you know my ride or die guy is Javonte Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Denver. 23rd easiest strength of schedule for the Denver Broncos. Mr. Williams is elite in yards after contact. He was number 1 in the league in broken tackles. He has great hands. He's only 22 years old. He finished 13th in touches last season, despite a 50-50 split with Gordon. He's coming off in redrafts as the 20th player off the board, which is late 2nd round. That means you could get this man as your RB2 if you play things right, which I did in the last mock draft. In Hackett's 3 seasons as the Packers offensive coordinator, who is their new head coach now, Aaron Jones had 200 carries twice, 236 in 2019 and 201 in 2020, whereas Jamal Williams had about half of the amount of carries. So Hackett likes to go a 2/3 kind of guy. Like, he wants his lead back to get 2/3 of the touches. Guess what, folks? Last year was exactly 50-50 between Javonte Williams and the fantasy rooster that we like to call him, the cockblocker himself, Melvin Gordon. This year, I expect the fantasy rooster will take a back seat and be the guy that gets 1/3 of the touches. And that will make a huge difference for Javonte Williams. He will be a top 5 running back this year. You heard it here first. Write it down. Top 5 running back. You can get him late in the second round. That's my boy. All right. Let's go back to Tony.
When the Reaper tattoos something on him, he just wrote it down and tattooed it in ink.
In ink.
The Reaper's not kidding.
And don't worry, folks. The Reaper's going to come and get Melvin Gordon again.
He needs to.
All right, Tony. Who's your second ride or die guy?
Well, I love, God, Johnny, I love what you were just saying about Burrow. Love it. But it scares me a little bit. One, their schedule. 2, they got a hell of a wide receiver core. So, and it, definitely an improved offensive line, of course, which is going to give him time to throw the ball. So I'm going with a ride or die gut here. And this is what I went against the past 2 seasons. I'm going Joe Mixon.
The mix.
It's taken a lot for me to say this, but I have a feeling that they're going to get in some predicaments. Again, viewing their schedule, and they're going to have to pound the ball on the ground. I'm not saying he's going to be getting 150 yards every game, but I think he's going to have some huge games because Burrow is going to have – he's not going to struggle, but they're going to have to run the ball. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm going Joe Mixon.
Yeah, their line's well improved, so I like that pick. I like Joe Mixon. I have him in Dynasty, so that sounds good to me. John, you agree?
Oh, I like me some mix. Yeah. No, I like all the Bengals. Like, literally, I know I just said don't take the second receiver and stuff like that. You could draft any of those 3 receivers and have really good season. And then you throw Joey Mix on there. I think Mixon's a top 10 running back for sure. So, yes, I like where you're going. My second guy, though, same division. And this is not one that most people are thinking about. So this is what I call a ride or die, low key ride or die. Rashad Bateman. I got my eye on him. Hollywood Brown, who everybody said had a kind of a down year last year, caught 91 passes for 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns in a down year. Bateman, who was basically sharing the second receiver for half of the year, still caught 46 balls and 515 yards. I know everybody thinks Lamar only runs. Lamar's got a pretty nice deep ball. Rashad Bateman's a really good receiver. I really like him, and I don't think people are looking at him. I think you can get him mid-round. I think this is a guy that it was sort of what I was talking about earlier when I say target number ones that you might not think of on teams. People are not thinking of the Ravens as a throwing team at all, but Rashad Bateman will give you number 1 production at a number 2 value.
I like Rashad Bateman.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. And again, like you said, look for those wide receiver ones on teams that, you're not necessarily looking at, like the Texans, Brandon Cooks, like the Ravens, Bateman. These are teams that get overlooked in fantasy, but can give you huge value. So I like Bateman a lot. All right, I'm going to finish things off here with my second ride or die homie, Gabriel Davis in Buffalo.
Oh, you love this guy.
I love this guy. I really love this guy. Gabriel Davis averaged 19.8 fantasy points per game in his last 6 games, including the playoffs, while running a route on 88% of dropbacks. What does that mean? Well, that means he stepped into the wide receiver 2 role the last 4 games of the season and the 2 playoff games. And he produced. And he produced so well that he dropped 8 catches on 10 targets. He caught 8 balls for 201 and 4 touchdowns in that game against the Chiefs. And that opened eyes to me. That was like, wow, this guy's coming. This guy's coming. Emmanuel Sanders is gone, folks. Cole Beasley is gone, folks. It's already been reported. Gabriel Davis will line up outside opposite of Stephon Diggs. He will be the starting wide receiver 2 in the most prolific offense in the league with Josh Allen, who I think is the best quarterback in football. Not only that, he's 23 years old, coming into his 3rd NFL season. The breakout year for wide
We love
receivers.
3 years. We love
Year 3 is usually the breakout year.
True.
He's currently being drafted in round 7. 27th wide receiver off the board.
Yeah.
So you can take him as your 3rd wide receiver, and he could return wide receiver 1 value. And if he doesn't, he's still your wide receiver 3. You didn't spend a lot of draft capital to get him. It's a no-brainer, folks. Take this man, and I'm going to take him in every draft I'm in if I can. And now that I told the world, I'll get sniped. But that's my ride or die home.
Probably by one of us.
Probably, but I think I've convinced at least one of you to do so.
I actually picked him up last year in a league. I liked him. Yeah.
If you picked him up in the playoff round on DraftKings, you probably won the Millionaire Maker.
Yeah, that's right.
What an incredible
I did
game.
not pick him
Yep.
up.
It was awesome.
All right. Fantastic show tonight, folks. A lot of nuggets out there. A lot of little things you could have picked up on. Johnny Ballgame, thank you very much for dropping that knowledge.
Always love it. God, I could talk about this stuff all. You got me fired up. Let's just tape our next show now.
Tony, Sir Poops a lot. Dropping those golden nuggets
And a few in my pants.
and a few in his pants.
That's why we call him Poops a lot.
Guys, we'll be back next week. You
Reaper.
book it. All right. So you want to hit that like button and that notification bell, and
Do
you
it.
want to subscribe. Do all those good things because you like fantasy football. And fantasy football on Fantasy Sports Island is fun, damn it. It's fun.
That's right.
Have fun with us next week. We'll see you then. For now, aloha.
Aloha, peeps.
Later.
Tune in next week for another episode of Fantasy Sports Island.